Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Advisor. My name is Lisa Urbanski, co-host of the show, here with Cyndee Dhalai. So, Cyndee is a poet and writer whose life story reads like a tapestry woven with resilience, transformation, and deep wisdom. She has over 25 years experience as a teacher. She specializes, sorry, in special education, and she has played so many roles, just like, a lot of us out there. Um, she uses her challenges to inspire others. She lost her husband. She's been through a lot with her health, and she is here today. We're going to talk about failure. And I know for myself, failure has been the catalyst to my success. And a lot of you probably confused by that. But when we try and don't succeed, we get up and try again until we do succeed or until it gives us a new path to take. And Cyndee is here today to really break that concept down. Thank you to Spreaker iHeartRadio for your support and sponsorship. And to our audience, please do not forget to like and subscribe. We want to continue growing and providing you inspiration, and we need you to do that in order to do so. Welcome back to the show, Cyndee.
Hi, thank you, Lisa.
How's it going? You're in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
And how are things over there?
Oh, it's quiet for now. We had an election and stuff like that, and changing government and stuff like that. But everything is now settling back down into normal.
Normal. Yes. Okay,
Yeah.
well, that's good. It's really good to see you, and we're happy to have you back. Today's a powerful topic because some people fail and then they don't want to try again. And so you and I were talking a little bit about this concept before we started recording. Can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, first of all, and then on the importance of failure?
Well, I have played many roles, like you mentioned. I was a child, a teacher, a wife, a mother. I'm still a mother,
Yeah.
a patient, a widow, and then I am a writer now and a poet. And I've been through a lot in life. And a lot of things most people will not understand or find hard to believe. But what I can say is that you're responsible for yourself and it's only up to you. And it's how you look at life and how you see life through your own eyes that really matters, because you can turn to other people and you can listen to people and you can take advice and do 101 different things. But it all comes down to the fact that you are the only one who can take care of you.
Mhm.
Now, we were speaking about failure, and very often we see failure as a lack or being inadequate. But actually, failure is not a lack or being inadequate. What failure really is an indication that you're human, one, and it's also an indication that maybe what you're trying to do is not what you are innately made to do. Because let's face it, everyone fails at something. Some of the most famous people and the most successful and the richest people in the world have failed hundreds of times at things they have
Mhm.
done. And does that mean they're inadequate? No. What it means is that they had to find a new way. And sometimes when you fail, it doesn't mean that you're not good enough. It doesn't mean that, you know, you are competing against people and you don't match up. And failure sometimes has to do with self-worth. And we think that, okay, if we achieve this thing, or if we are the best in this field, that's going to say that I am good and that I am a success. But that is not really sometimes who you inherently are, because you're trying to do something that maybe you're not meant to do. And sometimes when you don't get through with something, what you find is that maybe you're being pushed in another direction because to follow the
Mm.
path that you were supposed to follow. Not all our world star athletes, not all of us are entrepreneurs, not all of us have these great ideas all the time. that can spin off and, be a success or whatever. Not all of us are great public speakers, but what we all are humans with an ability and a wide scope and an imagination. So if this doesn't work out, maybe I can try something else. So that's what you have to do. Failure is not really about seeing yourself as not being valuable, as not having self-worth, as not being a person who deserves respect. Failure has to do with maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to do. Maybe this isn't what I'm supposed to follow. And then when something does happen that you feel inadequate at, I'm not going to say fail, when something happens that you feel inadequate at, or you feel as if you didn't get through or things didn't work out the way you want, you have to ask yourself some basic questions. What do I feel? Why do I think it didn't work out? Whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's you want to open a business, whether you want to try a new activity, whether you want to even lose weight. And you said, okay, why didn't it work? I am trying. For instance, let's say you want to go on a diet or you want to lose weight. Why didn't it work? I'm eating the right food. I am doing the intermittent fasting. I am walking. I'm exercising, and yet it doesn't seem to work. Why? And you get all flustered and you think, okay, I'm failing at that also. And then sometimes you have to ask yourself, why didn't it work? Maybe because you tried too hard. Maybe you put too much restrictions on yourself. Maybe you didn't follow a plan that suited your body shape or whatever. Maybe you were trying, in some ways you self-sabotage because you think, okay, if I exercise so much today, maybe I can have a slice of cake, or so you have to ask yourself exactly why. And then you say, okay, why do I find the need for me to look as if somebody I see on TV? Maybe that is not your normal body composition, because remember, our bodies are made and get to look a certain way. And we can force ourselves to lose a ton of weight, but eventually it's going to come back. So you have to learn to find a balance. And okay, I'm going to try my best. And once I feel healthy and once I feel fit, and to me, I look good or whatever, be comfortable with that. Because we all don't have to look like slim supermodels.
Yeah, there's a lot there. I'm super passionate about the universe is giving us everything as it should. So life is as it should all the time, no matter what. We're always presented with choices. We're always presented with challenges. We think we want something until we get it, and then we figure out we don't actually want that. And in order to achieve, you have to fail because you don't just wake up one day and you're a professional, whatever you're striving to be. It takes practice. I know when I was learning how to public speak and getting in front of a camera, I was so shy and I was so awkward and I felt so strange. But every single time I showed up, I felt better and better and better about it. And then there's times where I've done things in my life like basketball and I just was awful at it. And I tried and tried and tried, but I was awful at it. And then I'm like, all right, I'm not a basketball player. So it's really about resilience and accepting that, you're not meant for everything and that you're meant for what's meant for you. And you just got to explore, right? Like life is an adventure, but failure really shuts people down. So why do you feel like people shut down when they fail?
You see, failure comes from in us, and it's our own self-perception. In that, yes, we talk about growing up, and we have this idea that if I'm not good at this, I'm seen as a failure. Okay, I was in school, and if I didn't do good in a subject, maybe you got criticism for it. And you were told that, oh, you're not trying hard enough. I know you're stupid, or you get all these ideas from not just your family, but from your friends. And in yourself, you realize that, okay, I'm not good at this. I'm going to fail. And then maybe you tried a sport, or maybe you went to gym or something, and, you weren't very good at it, and you did your best, but oh no, you can't do this, you can't do that. And from the time you begin to hear, you can't do this or you're not good at this, it builds up on you. And all those things get inside of you. And you see, sometimes we talk about self-worth and we talk about self-confidence and we say, you have to be confident and you have to have self-confidence and you have to have self-worth and you have to have self-esteem and you have to have all these self-words that come together. We hear about self-growth and all that thing. But what we have to realize that the most important one is self-worth. And self-worth doesn't come from doing things, it comes from the value you place on yourself. And very often when we see ourselves as failures or not good enough or inadequate, it comes from the fact that we have internalized all these opinions and memories and events that occur in our life experiences that has told us, see, you can't do this. See, you're not good at that. See, nobody thinks well of you. See, this is what happened when you did this or whatever. And sometimes you have to realize that even our memories can be wrong. Because what we interpret as being devalued by other people may not be so. This is how we feel. Because, okay, let's say we went to an occasion with our friends or something, and you made a funny comment or something that was like a little off, and you felt bad about it. And you're thinking, oh my God, everybody thinks I am so stupid, or I made this silly comment, and they probably think bad about me. Now, mind you, nobody may have really noticed you said anything because everybody was thinking to themselves, and maybe one or two people might have noticed or whatever. But then afterwards, you look for it and you said, oh, I remember this one looked at me funny, or, they just ignored me and they kept talking. And you build up this memory in your head that, oh, I'm very bad in social settings. I really can't do this or whatever. So over time, you begin to build up this idea that every time you go out, you're gonna make a mistake. You're gonna fail. You're not good in social crowds. And mind you, you are wrong because that is what the memory you built up in yourself. Remember, all memories
Perception.
are fallible. Because sometimes how we think we remember things may not be exactly how we remember things happening. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
you need to know what you value in yourself. You have to have self-value, and self-value has to do with not how you think or you feel about yourself. You have to go to self-worth. Self-worth has to do with how you believe and you know yourself to be. It's not saying that, okay, I'm a great person. I can do this. I can write. I can sing, whatever. That is self-value. When we look at self-worth, is that I'm capable of this. I'm good. I'm better than this. That is your self-worth because you see your own self-value and you feel it in yourself and you know exactly who you are. And so when we look at it, it all has to do with perceptions.
Mm-hmm.
And very often we have to stop ourselves when things are happening and say, I mean, where did this come from? Why do I feel disappointed? Why do I feel angry? Why do I feel frustrated? Why do I think of myself as not being good at anything? Why do I always predict I am going to not get through at something? Because that's what you do. You predict and say, well, okay, I know that was going to happen. I expected that. It always happened. Why do you fall into that mindset? It is because you have allowed yourself and you have trained yourself to follow that train of thought. And you ruminate and you spin all these cycles every time something doesn't go your way. And you have to stop and ask yourself, were my expectations too high? Was I doing something that I wasn't prepared for? Was I doing something that I am not innately geared towards doing? So you have to look at it from that point of view, in that you have to kind of question yourself. And very often we don't want to do that. We don't want to say, we're going to say, well, it was that person's fault and people always treat me that way. Nobody values me. But if you don't value yourself, how do you expect other people to value you?
And so an interesting take on things that when you were speaking, I was thinking that, you know, we also need to celebrate our wins better. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
for myself, I'll speak for myself. When I fail at something, it feels 10 times heavier than the opposite, which would be success. And when I succeed at something, I celebrate it, but then I'm over it quickly. It's like, why are we so conditioned to not celebrate our successes? But when we fail, it's like the end of the world. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's so easy to move past a success and you want to go on to the next, but when there's a failure, it feels like it's heavy and a little bit like the end of the world in some aspects. It's interesting. I'm just putting that out there.
No, but this is that is it. You see, and we dwell so much on the failures and we build it up so deep in our minds that we negate the times that we actually did something. And sometimes if you look at your little wins during the day or the little things that you did during the day that you felt good about, if you put them all together, they might outweigh what you think you were bad at. And even when we feel that disappointment and resentment and stuff like that, you have to turn it around. And you have to say, I failed. Okay, I didn't do well at it. Things didn't work out the way I wanted. But what did I learn from that? In what way did that help me? And you have to say, okay, well, I know I can't do this. And I know I have to look for a different path, or maybe I have to look for a different way of doing it. Or maybe this isn't something that I'm supposed to do. Or maybe I need to probably learn a bit more about things before I actually try again. Or you can tell yourself that, listen, I tried it, it didn't work out, but at least I know I tried. So I can give myself that win. So even if you fail, you can give yourself that win. At least I know I tried. I put out my effort. I wasn't prepared for things, how it's going to turn out. But hey, I tried. I
Mm-hmm.
did it. Even if it didn't work out, I tried, I did it. And now I know better. So
Mm-hmm.
that is a win in itself. So that's how you grow from failure. You don't see it as this is the end of my life and I could never do this and this is so terrible and I'm never going to be able to do anything again because if I feel like this, I can feel like that. No, you have to look at it as I tried and I did it and it was for me and it was my effort and it was my way of doing things. So maybe now I'll learn that it's not bad to try things and not be good at it, but it also teaches me that this isn't something that I'm good at, or I need to be more prepared, or I need to probably ask help from other people and see what they're doing. But very often we come down to the fact that it comes to a competition. You ever realize that everything that you want to achieve, it's like you have to be better than everybody else. And we see
Mm.
life as a contest, as in the only way I can be a success is if I'm better than everybody else.
And I'm gonna add to that. It's not only that, but it's also for me anyway, it's more of a competition with myself. Like
Mhm.
always striving to do better and better and better and better, which is just like competing with someone else. But it's um I feel like it's not ever good enough. Like we're never satisfied with our successes regardless. Yeah, and we can never be like anybody else. I know we can strive to be like other people that we look up to, but you're right. People want to be the best at everything. Yeah, it's
Because
interesting.
that is how we've been taught, and that's how society works, is that okay, to be popular, you have to have this amount of followers and this amount of likes, and to be well
It'll
known.
look a
And
certain way.
we get so pulled into all the things that we should do to how success is framed. You
Hmm.
know, you have to have this amount of likes, you have to have more, this amount of followers, this amount of friends, you have to have these amount of influential people that you circles you move in, or you have to look this certain way, you have to have this kind of job, you have to have this sort of income, live in this area. And sometimes we get ourselves so much based on other people's opinions and other
Yeah.
what they, I have no idea who the they is still, have set out as our, like, what is it? Criteria to be a good person. And what you have to say is like, okay, how is much more money gonna help me? Yeah, maybe I can travel more, maybe I can dress better, maybe I can live a better, but ultimately that also has disadvantages too, because then you become suspicious. People might want to be your friends just because you're wealthy, or they might ask more from you and things like that, whatever. You have to decide in yourself, okay, what truly makes me feel happy and fulfilled. I don't need a I don't need 100,000 people being my friends or followers because that is fleeting. What I do need is a few people who I can rely on when I really need help and who are always there to support you and who are real and genuine. That's what you need, because if something happens and you're like, can you go and put it up? And will these people come and help you? Will they give you comfort? But how will that help you? But the people who are in your life, who are there and you can count on and who will accept you for who you are and who know you for
Mhm.
who you are, even when you're silly, even when you don't do things right, even when you are good or bad or whatever. That's what counts.
Mhm. Well, it's an interesting world these days of the internet and social media and the way that it portrays success. And a lot of people spend a lot of time on there, and it can really it's like you're living in a fantasy world video game type scenario, and then human touch, human contact, human interaction, you're not getting enough of that. And, even in COVID times, I noticed that I would go into the public and I would socialize with someone, and I had like a bit of a social anxiety because, Cyndee, you and I are connecting right now, but we're not connecting
Yeah.
like we would
In
if we were
person.
in
Yeah.
person. And so I can't look into your eyes. I can't feel your energy. I can feel it. I can feel it, but I can't really feel it, if that makes sense. So it
Yes.
makes us it's awkward. It's like we're a certain persona online, and then in real life we're another persona. And I even find myself like I'm really, really good behind the camera, but then I get nervous with people because I can feel the energy, and it's overwhelming because we're so used to this computer online lifestyle.
Yeah,
It's just
because
interesting perspective.
yeah, because very often what I'm finding is that a lot of people are so accustomed to the virtual connections, right?
Yeah.
And
It's quick validation, I think.
yeah.
I think it's
Now,
quick
mind you, it
validation.
it is good in that you can spread a message. There
Oh, for
are
sure.
advantages to it, right? You can spread a message, you can touch people's lives, you can inspire, you can uplift, you can do a lot of good with it also. I'm not
Hmm.
saying anything bad about it.
Me too.
But
I
what I'm
love my
saying,
online community.
yes, what I am saying is that sometimes we get so controlled by it that
Yes.
you have to have this and you have to do this and you have to, you spend so much time on it.
Hmm.
Honestly, this is the only time I spend online.
Mm. Wow.
Like when I have podcasts or whatever, and I'm only on WhatsApp,
Hmm.
which is kind of strange really, because for somebody who, I mean, I'm a writer, right? But still, I I go and I just have a few people who I might talk to, but to say like I don't have an Instagram, I don't have TikTok, I technically am on Facebook, but I don't like those kind of things, to be quite honest with you, because to me, it's like I don't want the sometimes people don't even read what people write because very often I hear people talking about it and they're like, you know, yeah, they just like it. But liking something doesn't mean that people actually listen to what you say or take in what you say. That is totally different, and that is where sometimes failure comes in because we are measuring ourselves against what we see, which might not be real.
Hmm.
And we think that we have to. live up to this standard and this vision of what is portrayed out there. But if you do check the people who are really successful, whether you're a coach, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether people you admire, right? They worked very hard. It wasn't like a fluke. It wasn't like it just happened overnight. They worked very hard and they gave of themselves and they knew their self-worth and they said, okay, I failed. My first business failed. My second business failed. I went bankrupt. This happened, that happened. But they persevered because they knew that I can do this. And maybe this didn't work out for me. Or maybe I can try this other field. And very often, if you read or you hear about people, they would always tell you that, yes, I failed. I know failure. Yes, I know what it's like. But I believed in myself and I knew that this is something I wanted to do. And I put myself out there and I got knocked down, but I picked myself back up because I believed in myself. And that is where it comes in. You see, failure doesn't mean or that you're inadequate or you lack anything. It just means that you have to find your own value, believe in yourself, and grow from it. So it is not, failure is not something bad. Failure is not a negative. The effects of it when you don't get through something. Yes, you get emotional. Yes, you get angry. Yes, you get upset and disappointed, and it pulls you down. But at the same time, you do get a better idea, sometimes in retrospect, that this helped me to go in a different direction. This helped
Mhm.
me to say, okay, listen, I can do this. This is where I went wrong. This is what I need to do. So it does give you a grounding in persisting. And when you let it pull you down, what it means is that I don't think highly of myself. I don't trust in my own abilities. I don't see value in myself. Yes, I can say 101 times, I am a success. I am a magnet. I can do this. I'm capable. Whatever. But those are just words unless you don't put feelings to them and you don't commit yourself to it. And very often that's what happens because once we fail at something, okay, I started writing. The first book I published was a poetry book. It did okay. I got a lot of reviews and stuff like that and thing, but it wasn't an outstanding success, you know? And I said, oh, geez, well, maybe my writing isn't like up to other people. And then I just sat down and I said, no, you didn't fail. You tried. And your writing is good. And maybe it does not appeal to everybody, but at least to me, I was happy with the fact that I stepped out and I did something that was something I never thought I would do. I always wanted to, but I made the effort and I did it. And then my other book, which was very hard, like You Feel the Price You Pay for Love, because that was like a personal thing for me. And I wrote it and I said, well, this is me and I will try and we will see where it goes from there and things like that. But at least I know to myself that this was something I wanted to do. And I took this step out and I did it. And I know to myself that I'm a great writer. And it doesn't matter if 1,000,001 people don't like it. There are still billions of people in the world who might like it. So
Mhm.
that's what I did. So it's not as if I don't see it as being inadequate. I see it as I have to take a chance. But even if I take the chance, I have to realize that it may not be acceptable to some, and it may be fantastic to some. But at least I know in myself that I know I'm a good writer. And I know that I have abilities, and I do know that my words can touch people. And I am happy with what I put out. And that's it.
You were inspired to write because of your life experiences. So tell us about your books in a little more detail and where do you sell them?
Okay. Well, the first book I wrote is called, as a poetry book, it's called Pieces of Me, Touch My Soul by Cyndee. And that's a series of poems. That was my first book that I tried, actually, and it's self-published also. And that is on Amazon.com. And the second book, which is really like a novel, and it is really about my experience and with grief and loss. And that is raw and it's unfiltered. And it's something that a lot of people I know experience. And that came from a very difficult, that, well, it's still difficult, but at a very bad time in my life, a very difficult time in my life. And it's available on Amazon.com. It's called Grief is the Price You Pay for Love. Run into the Fire, Discover Me in the Ashes. And that one I wrote under a pseudonym, Faye Allion. And both books are available on Amazon.com.
Amazing. I think you hit the nail on the head with like failure being a change in direction because I'm a visual, so when I'm talking to you, I'm picturing like kind of the movie of our conversation and what I saw as a fork in the road. You fail and then you have a decision to make. Do you want to go this way or this way? And I guess that's what we can be excited about is that, where it maybe something isn't meant for us, but that just means that there's something else out there that is. So it's about discovering that. So I like to think as life as like an adventure of discovery. And the more things we do and the more things we try, the more confident that we get. Because if you
Yeah.
don't try, then you're never going to see if you're going to succeed or fail. And then you just live in this idea in your head of wanting to be someone. But when you start putting yourself out there, it's amazing what you kind of encounter and what unfolds. And sometimes it's something that you never would have even imagined that you would be good at. Um, Certain things that have fallen into my lap, I said, wow, I never would have imagined myself loving this so much. But that's the beauty of trying different things because you learn different things about yourself. It's all about self-discovery and resilience.
Yes, it is. Because, like, what you have to remember is that when you think something doesn't work out, it's okay. It's okay to feel as if nothing, that if you're not good enough, because remember, the thing is, you're human
Hmm.
and nothing in life is perfect, and you are not perfect, and you're not going to be good at everything. The important thing is, like you mentioned, sometimes when you do find out that you're not really good or you're not good as you thought you were, that you take a different track and you stop and you reevaluate where you are. You reevaluate exactly what your capabilities are, what your abilities are, and what you can and you cannot do. And you give yourself permission to say, okay, all right, I am not good at doing a backstroke. I can swim, but I can't do a backstroke. I can walk, but I cannot do a marathon. So you kind of tell yourself and you accept exactly where your abilities lie. And so you know your limitations. And okay, maybe I'm not good in this area, but there are other areas to try, and life is full of possibilities.
Absolutely. It was really great seeing you. Thanks so much for being on the show today. I was just wondering if there's any last minute, thoughts that you had on failure or anything you'd like to leave the audience with today.
Failure does not mean that you lack anything or that you are unacceptable. It just means that you have an opportunity to grow and to expand and to explore new possibilities. And it gives you a chance to evaluate your own perception of yourself and what your own capabilities are. And who knows, you never know if you try a different track exactly how far you can soar, how high you can soar in the sky. And that might just be what you need because sometimes we need a little nudge sometimes in the right direction because we get
Hmm.
so stuck in a rut and into complacency of, okay, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to follow, this is, something everybody else is doing. But sometimes you need a little nudge to tell you, oh, you need to pull yourself up and you need to try something else because maybe you're much better than that.
Yes, I love that. Thank you very much for joining me today and for inspiring the audience to pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and try again. That's the lesson today.
Yeah.
Amazing. To our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them for us on our channel. And yeah, we really want to inspire you today to be yourself and to be okay with failure because it does not define us. It actually makes us stronger. Just saying. Hint, hint.
Yeah, it does.
Um,
Yeah.
absolutely. Until next time, my name is Lisa Urbanski, co-host of The Advisor, and today I was joined with Cyndee Dhalai, and we wish you a wonderful, beautiful day. Bye.
Bye.